If you were to ask me who are my three favorite modern directors working today, and not just the other filmmaking greats who have made other timeless films before the 2000s decade, such as Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, or Quentin Tarantino, and if I were to give you my three favorite directors right now, those would be number 3, Robert Eggers, number 2, Denis Villeneuve, and number 1, Christopher frickin' Nolan. He's a phenomenal filmmaker who is always committed with going above and beyond with his craft, aiming for practical effects, original ideas, exhilarating spectacle, and fascinating out of the ordinary ways for storytelling. He has cultivated a fan base that will go in droves to see any new movie he makes, and any new movie he makes is automatically going to be on my most anticipated list. And since we are a year away from his new film, The Odyssey, which is already my most anticipated film next year, I have decided to give you my list of my top 5 favorite Christopher Nolan movies. With how many incredible and iconic films Christopher Nolan has directed in his filmography, I am very excited to give you this top 5 list. And a few things. 1, this list is entirely my opinion and it's all subjective. If there is a particular film you either disagree with or placement, either a film that's in the honorable mentions that's not in the top 5, that's totally fine. We all have our own opinions and personal favorites from Nolan. That's okay. And speaking of which, I'd love to hear your favorite Christopher Nolan films in the comments below. Do you have a top 5? If you want to rank all of his movies, that's okay. Or your number 1 pick, let me know in the comments below. I'm excited to hear what your favorites from Nolan are. And before we get into the top 5 list, I have 6 honorable mentions. Here they are. First honorable mention, Tenet. This was an awesome and creative action movie from Nolan that came out mid-pandemic. Even though I'm not a fan of the audio mixing in this film, I still enjoy Tenet. Next up is one of his underrated films, Insomnia. That movie has an engaging mystery and a great trio of performances from Al Pacino, the late great Robin Williams, and a rare villain performance from him and Hilary Swank. That is definitely one of his overlooked films that's definitely worth checking out. Then we have Interstellar. I know this is one of the Nolan films people are split on. They either think it's a masterpiece or not as good as his other films. I still think this is great, even if I don't think it's a masterpiece due to some of the writing that can be a little cheesy, and I'm a little mixed on the third act itself. But it's still a visually stunning sci-fi film with a fantastic lead performance from Matthew McConaughey, and this movie still leaves me in awe every single time I rewatch it. Next, The Dark Knight Rises. And honestly, this is my second favorite of the Nolan Batman trilogy. I thought it was a great conclusion that's thrilling and emotional. I love Tom Hardy as Bane and Anne Hathaway as Catwoman. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think, gave a pretty underrated performance here. And as for what it needed to do to conclude this Batman trilogy, it went out on a high note. Then to the beginning of the trilogy, Batman Begins. A fantastic start that definitely gave Batman redemption after the atrocity known as Batman and Robin. This was definitely the dark, gritty Batman origin story we definitely needed after that film. And it still remains one of my favorite superhero origin stories, up there with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. A great introduction to this dark, gritty, realistic Batman film with excellent performances from Christian Bale being a fantastic Bruce Wayne / Batman. Cillian Murphy, I think, gave an underrated performance as Scarecrow, and I love Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul. Terrific cast, practical effects, and action, epic score from Hans Zimmer. I still love this movie. Final honorable mention that just pains me that it's not in the top 5. It was just so freaking close, and that is The Prestige. What an incredible magician rivalry movie, and Nolan directed this movie sort of like a magician. Just with how many twists and turns it took in this story were shocking. Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman were incredible in this movie, and that twist has always been lingering on my mind just the more I think about it, and the rewatching this movie, it's amazing. It's just shame it couldn't make the top 5. And with those honorable mentions out of the way, time for the top 5 list.
And here we go.
Coming in at number 5 is Dunkirk. I remember this film being one of my most anticipated films of 2017, being very excited to see what Christopher Nolan would do with a war movie, something he has never done before at that time. And for his first war movie, he knocked it out of the park, and this movie is incredible. And this is still one of the best war movies I have ever seen, up there with Saving Private Ryan. What I love about Dunkirk is that it avoids war cliches and delivers on being a unique war movie that's also immersive. Whereas some may criticize this movie for its lack of character development, while I would say that is true that this movie doesn't really have a lot of character development, I don't see that being the point of the movie. But more so an immersive experiences that just throws you in this war right from the jump, and just focusing on delivering an immersive experience like you're really there with these soldiers. The point of the film is more so tension and survival and not really getting to know these characters, there really isn't a particular scene where characters are just sitting around going, I have a wife and kids back home, I hope I survive and we get out of this together. Or another scene that was like, this is why I did this, I want to prove my parents I can do this. It doesn't waste any time for scenes like that. For this movie having a duration of 1 hour and 45 minutes, it is relentless from start to finish. And with the distinct storytelling in this film being told in 3 different perspectives from the air, the land, and the sea, following different characters from these perspectives at different times that ultimately connect in the end, the story keeps each perspective equally engaging and moving at a breakneck pace that's never rushed nor dragged out too long. And also the right amount to keep this film intense, relentless, and engaging, and knows its right moments when to be thrilling and when to slow down for a moment. On a technical standpoint, Dunkirk is superb. This movie is an incredible testament to Nolan's dedication and practicality and attention to detail. From the phenomenal production design that was actually shot on the beach at the Dunkirk evacuation, the stunning practical effects from the ships, planes, and boats, and without any CGI, there was not one fake-looking or artificial shot in this entire movie. The impactful and powerful sound design that makes this film terrifying, the flowing editing at balancing these 3 different stories, and Hans Zimmer's anxiety-inducing score here is incredible. It's just heart-pounding, and I love the use of the ticking clock in the scores, and that just perfectly complements the tension that is just continuous throughout this film. And Hoyt van Hoytema being back with Nolan to shoot this movie since Interstellar, his cinematography here is just stunning. And the cast ensemble is all great. Cillian Murphy and Mark Rylance are fantastic in this movie. Kenneth Branagh is terrific. Barry Keoghan in his breakout role, and even Harry Styles is also really good here. Tom Hardy is great as an Air Force pilot. I am over the moon that this was Nolan's first film to get him a Best Director Oscar nomination, as well as this being the second Nolan film to be nominated for Best Picture. Awesome. But did he have a chance to win? At the time of its release, I thought, it's Nolan's time, let's give him those Oscars. But then The Shape of Water came out and Guillermo del Toro swept the season winning Best Director, and I bet Christopher Nolan was in second place, so he didn't win, and The Shape of Water ended up winning Best Picture. No, don't get me wrong, I think The Shape of Water is a beautifully directed movie from Guillermo del Toro, fine with him winning, and I do think that is a great movie overall, even if it would be my 4th favorite film in that Best Picture lineup that year. But after that, I would be patient for Nolan's victory. More on that later. And overall, Dunkirk is an excellent war film from Nolan. It's a unique war movie that's enticing and thrilling, and I believe it is one of the greatest war movies ever made. And this was my favorite film of 2017 until I rewatched Blade Runner 2049 last year, and the more I thought about that movie, that topped it for me, but Dunkirk is still phenomenal. Coming in at number 4 is Memento. If you're wondering, what was the movie that brought Christopher Nolan on the map as a filmmaker to watch out for? I believe it was this film. Following was his debut, and he wasn't quite Christopher Nolan yet. It was his first film and starting out. In 2002, Insomnia, great but an overlooked film, and much later, Batman Begins took it to a whole new level. Now, if you're a film buff or cinephile, or if you have seen most of Christopher Nolan movies but not this one, this movie is an absolute must-see, especially if you love storytelling that's told in a way that's out of the ordinary and distinct, in a way in which this film is known for that makes it noteworthy. And for those who don't know, this film is told in reverse, and the scenes in color are told backwards, while the black and white scenes are the ones that are told chronologically. The purpose of the storytelling is to put the viewer inside the protagonist's condition of short-term memory loss. It's both a creative and out-of-the-box way to tell the story, and in a way to tell it from a unique perspective and to keep an engaging mystery at the same time. And one of the things to carry all that, Guy Pearce, as the film's main character Leonard, he is phenomenal in this movie, and this still remains the best performance he has ever given in his career. And how Pearce perfectly sells his character's condition in a subdued way and offers a fascinating protagonist to get attached to with his way of remembering things through tattoos and Polaroid cameras, and his past incident that caused this condition. And this is one of my favorite performances in a Christopher Nolan movie, and he was definitely overlooked for an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. Although I'm happy recently he was nominated for his first Oscar for The Brutalist, which he was phenomenal in, and personally he was my pick for Best Supporting Actor that year. Although Kieran Culkin was terrific in A Real Pain, I'd say he was a lead actor in my opinion, but Guy Pearce should have won the Oscar. His performance in The Brutalist just please watch that movie. It's fantastic. But it's not just Pierce. We have great supporting performances from Carrie-Anne Moss and Joe Pantoliano. I adore this movie from the performances, originality, the mystery, and the more you rewatch this movie, the more you notice things. It gets better and better. This received Nolan his first Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay, and I think he should have won that year, and I don't remember what won that year. I'll put it right here. But honestly, maybe that should have been Nolan's first win for writing this movie. It is a brilliant screenplay. Again, if you've never seen Memento, just know as little as possible and prepare yourself for a unique and fascinating story here. This would be my third favorite film of 2001 behind The Fellowship of the Ring and Monsters, Inc., and still a one-of-a-kind masterwork from Christopher Nolan. Coming in at number 3 is Inception. After the gargantuan success of The Dark Knight through critics, audiences, and winning 2 Oscars, 2 years after that phenomenal masterpiece, Christopher Nolan goes above and beyond by making an original action movie that is just jaw-dropping and certainly one of the most creative movies I have ever seen in my life. What I love about Inception, it is such an original and creative film that brilliantly tackles dreams, how it introduces the concept of inception, and how it shows that concept by inserting ideas into someone's mind and that person taking credit for that idea. It's a brilliant and fascinating screenplay that requires you to pay attention to every single detail and line of dialogue, and it's not boring exposition at all. It just adds so much tension, urgency, and awe to everything. And complemented by a fantastic cast ensemble and one of Leonardo DiCaprio's best performances, and you're with his character throughout this movie. You want to root for him, you want to sympathize with, you understand what he's been through. And the supporting cast is all stellar, from Joseph Gordon-Levitt being a huge standout, Tom Hardy in the first film I noticed him in, Elliot Page, Ken Watanabe, Michael Caine, Marion Cotillard, and Cillian Murphy has an incredible emotional theme in the third act of this movie with a pinwheel. What an emotional punch to the gut that was. And the score... just one of my favorite scores in film, and my second favorite Hans Zimmer score behind The Lion King. It is epic, grand, bombastic, thrilling, intense. It just gives me goosebumps to every single piece of score in this movie. Just the standouts from Dream is Collapsing, especially dun, dun, just a kick. It is incredible. Time being also a fantastic score used at the end of the movie, and just the many memorable and iconic themes such as dun, 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 dun. The visual effects in Inception are spectacular and jaw-dropping, and some of the most incredible visual effects I've seen in any movie. It's a sensational blend of CGI and practical effects. The level of creativity for crafting the dreamscapes is astonishing, and the practicality is utilized brilliantly within the stunt work in one of the best action scenes I've ever seen, that definitely being the hallway fight scene. It is awesome. From the tension, music, and how it was shot using a rotating set, it is just an incredible action scene to watch. Although I'm thrilled with this being the first Nolan movie to be nominated for Best Picture, making up for The Dark Knight being snubbed for Best Picture, and that was a time the Best Picture lineup was expanded to 10 movies. But on the other hand, what if I told you Christopher Nolan was snubbed for an Oscar nomination for directing Inception? Are you kidding me? How does a movie like this, such a filmmaking achievement like this, not get a directing nomination? Are you insane, Academy? And they gave it to Tom Hooper for The King's Speech, which was a well-directed movie, but nowhere near on the same level of a filmmaking achievement as Inception, or what was nominated, or who should have won, David Fincher for The Social Network. Like, come on. And just that Best Director snub just makes me livid, and just seriously, how do you snub a movie like this for Best Director? And on the bright side, this movie did win 4 Oscars that were very deserving. Best Cinematography, to which this movie looks incredible, Best Visual Effects, and both sound awards for sound editing and sound mixing. Inception absolutely holds up more than a decade later as a jaw-dropping masterpiece from Christopher Nolan. And this would be my second favorite film of 2010, in between Toy Story 3 at number 3, and my favorite film that year was The Social Network. But Inception is definitely one of Nolan's unforgettable films. Coming in at number 2 is Oppenheimer. In 2023, Christopher Nolan returns to a World War II movie, but this time not doing a World War II survival movie like Dunkirk, but instead doing a character study and biopic film on a real-life person, telling the life and career of J. Robert Oppenheimer and creating the atomic bomb during the Manhattan Project. And this right here is an absolute tour de force and landmark for Christopher Nolan as a filmmaking achievement, and a perfect demonstration at his filmmaking skills, operating at the highest peak of his career in both storytelling and technically. This is top tier Nolan direction that is sublime. This movie is outstanding on a technical standpoint. The breathtaking cinematography from Hoyt van Hoytema that's purposeful, the brilliant and flowing editing at balancing two different perspectives, the amazing sound design, especially in the Trinity test sequence that was incredible, and the outstanding production design with incredible attention to detail and accuracy. And Ludwig Göransson's score here is just glorious and hands down his best work as a composer. It is just huge, used perfectly for whatever scenes it's in, and so many memorable themes. Can You Hear the Music alone is a musical work of art. The music for the tension of the Trinity test, Dross's theme, Destroyer of Worlds, just so many phenomenal musical themes in this movie. And this is so far my favorite score of the decade. This won Ludwig Göransson a second Oscar after Black Panther, well deserved, and we'll see if Sinners could win him a third one. And the cast of Oppenheimer is tremendous all around, especially from Cillian Murphy, still giving the best performance of his entire career. And I'm so happy after all these years collaborating with Nolan in supporting roles, he finally gets the spotlight. And this is one of those performances that regardless if the movie is 2.5 hours to 3 hours, and the lead performance is just captivating throughout, like Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, or Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street, and Cillian Murphy is among them. And as for Oscar-winning lead actor performances of this decade right now, he is neck and neck with Anthony Hopkins in The Father. How Cillian Murphy perfectly captures his look, ego, cockiness, intelligence, and all leading to his eventual guilt, devastation, and compunction. And he makes Oppenheimer such a complex, nuanced, and fascinating character to focus on, and makes you question whether or not you should root for him. And this won Cillian Murphy an Oscar for Best Actor. Very well deserved. So happy he won. And it's about time Cillian Murphy gets his due as one of the most underrated actors we have to an Oscar-winning actor. I'm so happy about that. And even though I love Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, he was probably the runner-up to win, but Cillian Murphy absolutely deserves that Oscar. But it's not just Cillian Murphy who carries this whole movie. The supporting cast is all incredible. From Robert Downey Jr. absolutely stealing the show as the villain Louis Strauss, and this would probably be his best not Iron Man performance, I'd probably say since Tropic Thunder, which it was a scene-stealing comedic performance from him. And that rant scene alone and the monologue, that right there deserved him the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. And I love the Best Supporting Actor lineup that year, especially Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things and Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon. And I love Ryan Gosling in Barbie, but I thought Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in Oppenheimer was better than Gosling in Barbie. I'm just saying. And the rest of the supporting cast from Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Florence Pugh in her screen time, Josh Hartnett, Rami Malek briefly, Kenneth Branagh, Josh Peck surprisingly, Casey Affleck, Benny Safdie. Just so many incredible performances, whether big supporting roles or just little cameos that makes this film memorable. Oh my god, I also forgot to mention Gary Oldman briefly as President Truman. And just the line when Oppenheimer says that I have blood on my hands, and just the chilling line delivery at how ruthless Truman was when he says, "Do you think Hiroshima or Nagasaki gives a shit about who created the bomb? They care about who drops it." Just that line delivery like there, just wow. And his last line, "Don't let that crybaby back in here," which did actually happen. Just, man, Gary Oldman killed in that scene. And I was so happy to see him back in a Christopher Nolan movie after playing Commissioner Gordon in the Batman trilogy. But the storytelling here in Oppenheimer is phenomenal. It's a brilliantly constructed, non-linear story of Oppenheimer's life and career. And the cinematography shown in two different perspectives, Oppenheimer's subjective perspective shown in color, and Strauss's objective perspective shown in brilliant black and white. It's a distinguished way to keep this film comprehensive and engaging. From scene to scene, this movie is thoroughly riveting. And this would be Nolan's most dialogue-heavy film to date, but this movie is never boring or tedious. And this is also his longest film at 3 hours long, but that runtime is warranted and purposeful from scene to scene. Just how much it has to tell everything in great detail. And this was the movie to win Christopher Nolan his overdue Oscar for Best Director. Finally! I remember just jumping with joy, celebrating when he won the Oscar for Best Director. Here's a little video of me.
And the Oscar goes to Christopher Nolan.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Yep, I was definitely happy about that. I can remember the last time I was that ecstatic about a Best Director win in a long time. And I feel like the two standout scenes that won him that Oscar for Best Director. Number one, the Trinity test sequence. The build up to that scene was phenomenal and anxiety inducing. I just remember just feeling that in the theater. It's just like, oh my God, it's about to happen. The bomb's about to go off. Even though you know what's gonna happen, it just keeps you on the edge of your seat. From the urgency, great dialogue, tension. And when the bomb goes off, it just leaves you in awe. And another scene is when Oppenheimer gives a speech and you see his psychology about the guilt he's been feeling after Japan. That entire scene, just brilliant, creative, and phenomenal. And my jaw dropped when I first saw that scene. Just a brilliant way to showcase that. What more can I say about Oppenheimer? It's a masterpiece. And a stunning biopic film, and one of, if not the best biopic I've ever seen. Masterful filmmaking from Christopher Nolan, a tremendous cast ensemble, stellar technical aspects, and a comprehensive character study. It is without a doubt my pick for the best film of 2023 on repeat viewings. Just the third time I watched this film on Blu-ray, I was like, yep, best film of 2023 right there. As well as, do want to say it, this is so far my favorite film of the 2020s decade so far. We'll see what tops it, but this movie is not only one of my favorites from Nolan, it's quickly becoming one of my favorite films of all time. And yet, it's only the number 2 film. What could be number 1? Well, it's right here in this list. And a little hint to what my favorite Christopher Nolan film is, well, it's right here on my t-shirt with this character. You know what it is. That film, it's right here at the number 1 spot. Let's get to it. And my pick for the best Christopher Nolan film is, of course, The Dark Knight. What more can I say about this film that already hasn't been said ever since this movie came out, but I want to praise this movie to no end. The Dark Knight is altogether my favorite superhero film of all time, my favorite film of the 2000s decade, my favorite Batman movie, obviously my favorite Christopher Nolan film, and this would be my favorite movie of all time. Whereas Batman Begins was a fantastic start to the trilogy and was a unique way of retelling the Batman origin story, The Dark Knight absolutely ups the ante and takes the superhero genre to the next level. It goes darker, offer new challenges to Batman, bigger on the action and the practical effects, but also has enticing themes about morality, heroism, and sacrifice that just elevates this movie to incredible new heights. And you can't talk about The Dark Knight without talking about, of course, Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. It is still to this day one of the greatest performances in film and absolutely one of the best villainous performances in a movie. And I find it baffling that Heath Ledger actually got hate when he was cast as the Joker. Just look up articles when Heath Ledger got cast as the Joker and some of the comments. People were not happy about this choice, and especially find that strange after he was coming off of Brokeback Mountain, which received him his first Oscar nomination for Best Actor, which was a phenomenal performance. And when people saw this movie and how terrifying Heath Ledger was as the Joker, the naysayers immediately shut up and instantly regretted doubting Christopher Nolan for casting Heath Ledger. And that goes to show there are some castings out there you should never doubt. It is still my favorite Joker portrayal in film that's altogether darkly funny, magnetic, menacing, terrifying, iconic, and so many quotable lines from him. And I thought my jokes were bad. What doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger. Why so serious? It's not about the money. It's about sending a message. He knows the right balance of when to be terrifying, darkly funny, but also entirely makes it his own. And this performance actually made me look at acting in a whole new light. And I actually do stage acting in my spare time, and this was the performance that inspired me to do some acting. And it's so tragic that Heath Ledger passed away 6 months before this movie came out. It's really sad what happened to him. And it makes me wonder where his career would have gone after The Dark Knight. And the incredible legacy of Heath Ledger and giving us a Joker that stood the test of time, it is all magnificent. And Heath Ledger rightfully won a posthumous Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Like, that is 1,000,000,000% deserving. And if you watch the video of when Heath Ledger won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and looking at the audience reactions from celebrities, you could tell how heartbroken they were at the loss of Heath Ledger. It was just so sad. And what I love about his Joker, he avoids being a one-dimensional psychotic criminal, but someone who is motivated at bringing chaos and people showing their true colors. And he works perfectly as an opposing psychological threat for Batman. Just how far he would go to get Batman to break his own rule. Even to get Batman to run him over is like, come on, hit me, hit me, hit me. And just Batman just wouldn't. It's just, oh man. And him being a rage baiter and getting Batman to just beat him up and punch him and punch him. And just how far he will go to get Batman to break his own rule. My God, is just riveting. And not just Ledger, the cast is all fantastic. Christian Bale is still terrific as Batman, and him facing the challenges of corruption, chaos, and struggling with heroism, and the terrific returning players from Gary Oldman, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman. And as for new additions and the replacement of Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel Dawes, and I thought she was better than Katie Holmes, so I thought did a decent job in Batman Begins, but Gyllenhaal was better. And especially Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent / Two-Face was phenomenal. And going through an amazing character transformation of a symbol of white knight of hope and justice for Gotham and shifting to a vengeful and unhinged person against the Joker. And to me, I've always found it to be the most overlooked performance in The Dark Knight. And not just Ledger, who deserved to win Best Supporting Actor, I think Aaron Eckhart deserved an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor in my opinion. And the story is a fantastic blend of superhero spectacle and riveting crime drama. It absolutely succeeds at telling a gripping story and delivering incredible spectacle and immersing you in this gritty, realistic, and visceral crime world of Gotham and telling an amazing story about chaos, corruption, and what it truly means to be a hero. Especially with one of the most important and quotable lines of the film, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And of course, for the action sequences, it is some of the best in any Batman movie. From the amazing opening bank robbery sequence that just grips you instantly, and the best action scene in the whole film, that entire truck chase sequence was outstanding. From the sound design, lack of music, tension throughout that sequence, and the amazing practical effects, it is up there in one of, if not the best action scene I've seen in any superhero movie. The effects are phenomenal from the amazing practical effects and great CGI when necessary, especially with the other half of Two-Face's burnt face. The fantastic screenplay with many memorable lines and scenes, most of them with the Joker, and the interrogation sequence is one of my favorite scenes in the film, just with Batman and the Joker that just tells you everything about the Joker's motives is perfect. What is there more to say about The Dark Knight? It is an absolute landmark in not only superhero, action, Christopher Nolan's filmography, but film in general. Dark, intense, gritty, visceral, engaging, gripping, and it just ups the ante and pushes the boundaries. It is just a tremendous achievement of filmmaking that always reminds me why I love movies. It is my favorite film of 2008, hands down, and I am livid that it was the last time the Oscars nominated 5 movies for Best Picture, and yet this film got snubbed for Best Picture. Although I do think Slumdog Millionaire, fine with that winning, great movie. Milk, Frost Nixon, and Curious Case of Benjamin Button, all great movies in my opinion. And The Reader, I haven't seen that movie, but looks like a boring Oscar bait film to me, and I was like, that got nominated over Dark Knight? Really? And when the Academy got backlash for snubbing The Dark Knight for Best Picture, the Academy decided to expand the lineup to 10 movies for Best Picture. And I've always found that to be a great idea, as a great opportunity for more variety of movies, and not just the typical movies the Oscars nominate, either biopics or dramas, unless they're truly deserving. But come on, there is no excuse to not nominate The Dark Knight for Best Picture. It's like, it's a superhero movie. Who cares if it's a superhero movie or not? It's incredible. Either that or WALL-E should have been nominated for Best Picture that year. Like, come on. But Oscars, regardless, The Dark Knight, perfection, and my favorite movie of all time. And that right there is my list of my top 5 favorite Christopher Nolan movies. I am so happy I did this list, and I am so pumped for the Odyssey next year, and that's my most anticipated film next year. And we'll see at the time of that movie's release next year. We'll see if that could join the top 5 list or be an honorable mention. We'll see. And despite only seeing a teaser trailer so far a few weeks ago, I am so excited to see what Christopher Nolan has in store with the Odyssey next year. And hopefully he continues to make more amazing movies that reminds us why he's one of the filmmaking greats. So I would like to hear from you guys. What are your top 5 favorite Christopher Nolan movies? Do you want to rank them all? What's your number 1 pick? Let me know in the comments below. Did you enjoy this top 5 list and want to see more videos like this in the future? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here, and don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. It really means a lot. My social media links will be in the description down below. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. If you'd like to see my written reviews, I do have a Letterboxd if you'd like to follow me on there. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.